This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. The Anti-Corruption Unit brings in two big names for questioning. Arrests are made in a $3 million prison scam. And a wizard has a magic cow he wants to sell you. But first, our headline story, and this story shows how very far-reaching the fight against corruption goes. It, in fact, reaches to the very top, as this headline testifies. ACU, Anti-Corruption Unit, investigates senior officials in fraud case linked to ex-tycoon. The two senior officials involved are very senior indeed. They are the Vice President of the Anti-Corruption Unit and the Under-Secretary of State at the Ministry of National Defence. These two are being questioned about their connection with this lady. She is Leng Channa, a woman that devastated the lives of thousands of people with her brilliant city property fraud that saw a staggering $300 million disappear. The two senior officials have been named as Sond Barath and Lieutenant General Sa Tavi. A spokesman at the Anti-Corruption Unit said the ongoing investigation is based on evidence held by the ACU's internal investigation team. And that team has now stated that the two officials were involved in a conspiracy related to the Channa fraud case. This criminal case is vast. Already, it has racked up 28,000 pages of evidence, and the Siem court that is processing this case has been very clear, saying the two men are not to be seen as witnesses, but they are in fact suspects in this criminal fraud. Now, it's very hard to relay how far-reaching and how devastating the brilliant city fraud scam was. It ruined the lives of over 6,000 people who had invested over $300 million into a bogus property scam. The scam itself was simple. They were told to invest in brilliant city property, and in return, they would reap a very good rate of return. But this was all lies. Lies that may well have been added by the two senior officials. Now then, some of you may well think, well, yes, these two elite have been pulled in for questioning, but will it go any further? Well, yes, it will, and in fact, yes, it has, as this latest headline shows. Deputy Head of Anti-Corruption Unit suspended. The deputy head of the department that was supposed to be the watchman to stop such cases of corruption has himself now been suspended. On August 11th, Mr. Sond Barath was removed from his post, and he is now very firmly in the investigation spotlight, and he could well be charged in being complicit in the largest fraud case that Cambodia has ever seen. On this week's Crime Desk, yet more major corruption in high places. Policemen rush to a crime scene, then leave with other people's property. And we have yet another wizard story. Hoorah! We started the show with two very senior officials being nabbed for potential corruption, and the steamroller, that is the Anti-Corruption Unit, has yet more senior officials in its sight. The headline read, Hun Sen's former aide and three others stand trial over corruption. The Phnom Penh Municipal Court on Wednesday began the trial of Dong Dara, a former aide to Senate President Hun Sen, along with three of his associates. They all stand accused of siphoning off over $3 million from the sale of a decommissioned prison in Kampong Chang province. All four have now been charged with active and passive trading in influence and corruption in connection with the 2018 sale of the decommissioned property. The four men were arrested back in November of last year, and if convicted, they face up to 10 years in prison. The presiding judge said that Thai was charged with 2 counts, including corruption under Article 32. Meanwhile, the three others, including a former Deputy Chief of Police Security Department, were also charged with corruption and additionally charges of fraud. According to the judge, the four conspired in 2018 to sell a disused prison through a construction company for more than $3 million. The judge added that once they had the $3 million, they then built a smaller prison at a different site at a much lower cost. So at the end of it all, they had a tidy amount of money that was left over. But instead of handing the excess money back to the government, they decided to keep it to themselves. This left a clear financial trail, and it was their undoing. People began to ask, where did that extra money go? And it seems that they had no answer. No date for a trial has yet been set, but if convicted, they do face 10 years in jail for their financial wrongdoings. In that previous story, we saw pilfering on a large scale, but pilfering does not always involve millions of dollars. As this week, a group of policemen were questioned about missing items from a crime scene. Pilfering police will be disciplined, says National Police Commissioner. General Sartet, the National Police Commissioner, has stated that a group of police officers allegedly stole phones and computers during an investigation into a crime. And now they will be held accountable and disciplined for those thefts. General Sartet spoke of the recent case in Ko Kong province, where policemen went to investigate a crime. But it was the policemen themselves that then committed the crime of theft. At the scene, the officers stole computers and mobile phones. Now, it's worthy of a pause here. How did those officers involved think for 1 minute this was a crime they could possibly get away with? I mean, they must have realized that to many people, their computers and their phones are not only items that will be immediately missed, but also imperative to their lives. So it is no surprise at all that those that lost their valuables reported the thefts immediately. And when they did, those that had been robbed pointed the fingers squarely at the light-fingered policeman. And it's not as though the officers took just a few phones. No, goodness no. Incredibly, the report says that 35 phones had gone missing. The general in charge has now ordered the National Force to investigate. And in his statement, he said, "This is a bad example for the National Police Force, and this should not happen." And he is certainly not wrong. To kick off this next story, I want to tell you how newspaper stories work. When journalists write a story, they are looking for a good, strong headline, what we call a banner headline, to draw the reader in. This is then followed by a sub-headline to pull you in even further. So when I saw this next headline, I was hooked. Man accused of murder after cutting off sister-in-law's leg. Right? That is so weird, I'm going to read it again. A man is accused of murder after cutting off his sister-in-law's leg. Holy goodness, who knows what's round the next corner? In this story, we find ourselves back in the countryside as police have announced a farmer is under arrest for murder after he allegedly attacked his sister-in-law with a machete in Ode Minche province. The farmer was arrested this week for killing his sister-in-law because she did not tell him that his wife was having an affair. The murder occurred at the victim's house in the late morning. The suspect has now been named as Nang Ving, a 46-year-old farmer. And he had returned home, and he had had a fight with his wife after finding out that she was having an affair with another man. The farmer then beat his wife. The beaten wife, unsurprisingly, fled the family home, and she immediately moved in with her lover. Enraged, the farmer wanted revenge, so he set off to his sister-in-law's house, where he pulled out the machete and he attacked her, hacking at her repeatedly with the deadly blade. The victim bloody and battered, tried to escape, but the suspect chased her down and slashed her many more times, causing her leg to fall off. Tragically, due to the loss of blood, she died at the scene. The suspect stands accused of murder, and he faces a prison term of up to 15 years if convicted. Here we go, and they can't say we don't cover the big stories. And we close this week with a headline I was not going to miss out on, not in a million years, as I have a fetish for wizard stories. And so it was that this week yet another wizard has been hauled in by the police for being not so much a magic wizard, but a bloke who is nothing more than a cheap con man. But this wizard man racked up some serious profit. Wizard arrested for $10,000 talisman fraud. Yes, a self-proclaimed wizard in Siem Reap has been arrested this week after he fraudulently sold what he claimed was a magic item, netting him over $10,000. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that item was that he sold, not just yet, because it's weird. So we will get to that in just a moment. The man arrested is this guy. He is Sim Sinha, a 33-year-old male and a fortune teller by trade. Or, in more plain English, he's a complete BS artist and a fraud. According to the Siem Reap military police report in March of 2025, the suspect met the victim and told her that he had a genuine sacred object. That sacred object was a magic bronze cow. Not only was this a magic cow, but it was worth tens of thousands of dollars. The wizard told the victim if she gave him just $10,000, he would not only give her the magic cow, but he would also use a spell to awaken the cow, so she could benefit from its many magical wonders. Here is a bronze cow. Now, this is not the actual cow, but I imagine it is remarkably similar. So let me ask you this. Would you like this, a nice wedge of bills adding up to $10,000, or this, a cow that needs to be awakened? Hardly a tough choice, is it? The victim thought different to you and I, and for some reason only known to themselves, handed over the 10 grand. But when the victim went to pick up Magic Cow, she discovered it was a cheap fake. You don't say. In fact, it probably had the same magical and financial value as this piece of junk I saw on AliExpress for just $1.67, which oddly does have a 4.6 star rating. I believe AliExpress reviews as much as I believe in magic cows. The wizard cow conman has now been interrogated and he is currently awaiting a trial date. So, we can expect him to be moving into a prison cell soon. So sorry about that. I just could not resist. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
As always, before we go to the weather, here's a little segment from my life, and this segment is called What's in the Pot? All the celebrities are playing this, by the way. No, I'm not making it up. All the celebrities are playing this one. And it was whilst I was out on one of my epically long bicycle rides, I spied this lady with this huge pot with flames all around. And I thought, ooh, I wonder what's in the pot. So I went over, and here you can see, there she is. She's stoking the fire, putting yet more wood in. And it's a sizable pot, that one. But obviously, the question in my head was, what's in the pot? So I was indicating to her, show me what's in the pot. She then went and had a word with her neighbour, saying, Irene, there's a nutter over here who wants to see my pot. But I persisted, and then she actually revealed it. So, have a guess. Tell me what's in the pot. And it did surprise me. And she did reveal it. And here she is, she's taking off the lifter with rather a grand smile, and what we see is there's bananas in the pot. She's boiling bananas. Now the question in my head is this: what do you make with boiled bananas? I honestly don't have a clue. If anyone knows, please let me know. So there you go, a segment from my week. So, from hot bananas to the weather. And I've got to get it up, haven't I? Hold on. Let me just fiddle and twiddle. And I'm getting better at this. There it is in the upright. Let me look across. Look, can I say 32, 31, 30, 30, 30, 30. Your high is 32 degrees. And basically, there's big bursts of rain every now and then. We're not getting prolonged rain, we're getting these big bursts that are just awful, especially if you're on a motorcycle. Humidity, it says, stands at about the 80% range, and the wind is picking up, for that's up to 11 kilometres per hour.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.